What's going on, Tamers? East here, and I cannot catch a break. I just got over the flu twice, and now allergies are trying to destroy my entire life. It is so bad, I might not even make it to Friday, to be honest. Just put my EXA boxes on my gravestone, please. So long story short, I went hiking over the weekend to see the fall leaves in the Japanese mountains, and great trip, but since then, allergies have been elbow dropping me at every single turn. I will never touch grass again. You'll never see me outside in nature. The closest I might get to nature is cardboard, and even then, this is like double sleeved. So yeah, that should give you an indication of how bad it is right now. Speaking of cardboard though, we are finishing up the 8th week of the BT19 Xros Evolution set over here in Asia as we actually bring this set's lifespan to a close. Keep in mind the EX8 set will be releasing at the end of this week as the recording of this video, and yeah, this set saw the start of the second cycle of Asia qualifiers for the World Championships later next year. And while the past few weeks have given us a glimpse into the Southeast Asian events that have happened outside of Japan, this week we got a huge dump of the second stage qualifiers, or the second stage area qualifiers that happened within Japan. So with that said, let's take a look at some event results, a couple of key takeaways, and a close look at some of the decks that did top at those events. So looking over week 8's results, this week I think reinforces the past few weeks with many of the game's stronger decks being well represented. Things like Red Hybrid, Finalugomon, and the current Baba Yaga of the game, Mirage Galgamon. If you've been watching the past couple of weeks, then you'll probably remember that Magnamon X Antibody has been one of the more popular topping decks, but this week they saw their numbers actually cut in half, with many players pivoting to more aggressive decks, the ones that I just mentioned before, as well as decks like Taomon Ruin Mode Loop. Speaking of Taomon, it feels like the breakout star of the BT19 set, and there's been some really interesting evolutions these past couple of weeks, which we'll definitely take a look at, so stay tuned. One strange oddity in my opinion is that while the Velgar Loop Purple Hybrid deck has become really popular in the West, and is still a pretty strong deck in its own right, it's struggling to keep its footing over here in Asia. And because I haven't played the deck in a while myself, I'm not really sure the reason for all of this. Like, if you're a Velgar savant here in Asia and you have some insight, I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. So I showed off a few Taomon lists early into the set's lifespan, but I figure considering its performance, it's worth looking at a more refined and evolved version of that deck. And the one that you see here on screen comes from one of the second stage qualifiers over here in Japan, but format here is a little weird, so let's clean this up just a bit. While I think the earlier versions of the list were really slim on some of the level 4s for the deck, it feels like the lists that I've been looking at have upped the numbers for that just a bit. Where before we saw something like 3 Cubimon in the list, now you see something like 5 or 6. Most notably, the increase and the usage of the, I think, EX4 Yokomon, who's able to just assign blockers whenever she's played or evolved into. So you have a way to gain some more defense while you're like trying to put up this huge wall of Digimon during your Taomon power turns. If you've watched my regional review streams or videos, then you've probably seen this deck fly a little too close to the sun and end up actually decking themselves out because they go so crazy on their power turn. And so this deck's answer is to utilize the BT7 Avenge Kidmon as a way to recycle all of those options, add some more cards to your deck so you don't deck out, and then give yourself potentially another really big play with all those things restacked into the deck. One thing I think this list does really differently though is that you'll notice there's only one copy of the BT19 Sakyamon. And honestly, I think that card is fantastic, not only for the additional card draw it provides, but also the extra token body as a blocker, that's 6k DP that can on later turns actually swing with that no problem at all. But I think because of the inclusion of the Yokomon here, they decided they didn't need as many copies. I'm still a little worried about the card draw in some cases, but maybe this player felt that everything was okay. Especially with the inclusion of the Viximon down there who can actually draw extra cards whenever you play options. Feels like we've also seen the 1 copy or 2 copies of the Noble Family Arts become a staple in the deck as well, just because it's a really easy 0 cost, in this case, minus 12k option. And because you can generate such a wide board on your Taomon loop turns, then it's really easy to hit that threshold of 3 Digimon on board in some way to actually get the full clear. And so this deck continues to evolve with some other really cool techs. I've seen things like 1 copy of Emergency Program Shutdown, maybe to get an edge out in the mirror, or even to shut off X Antibody options for like a really crazy power turn from like Leviamon or Lord Knightmon or anything else that's going to use the X Antibody option. I'm looking at you, Gallantmon. But yeah, honestly, with as much innovation that's happened so far, I'm really excited to see what the future of this deck looks like. And if you want to see this deck in action, then we actually got to witness some awesome gameplay from the recent Singapore regional review stream that I did, and the videos should be coming to the channel really soon, so make sure you're subscribed to know exactly when they go live. So I didn't think I'd be talking about Bloomlord in 2024, but honestly, the Green Plant Engine has been doing great things this past month, with some amazing event results in the Southeast Asian region, I think getting 2nd place like 2 times, at minimum, if I'm not mistaken. And after going over some of the cards, I think you'll understand why. Similar to Purple, the lower end of the deck has some really nice ways to cheat memory or just gain memory really easily over the course of a turn. I mean, just looking at the BT14 Patamon, who can give an opponent's Digimon, if they get rested, you get +2 memory, and then pair that with the Patamon X Antibody, who can just evolve and rest something, so it's like a 0 cost evolve to get +2. The Togemon can also let you play down Tamers just by resting it for free or very cheap. I'm talking like 0 to 1 cost Mimi Tamers here. And then you can also play those for free as well when you take a look at things like the old Sunflowermon, where when you rest it, you can just play a 3000 or lower DP Digimon on the board. So yeah, great synergy between those two. And then there's also the newer, I think, BT13 Sunflowermon, who can rest itself and then something can evolve at cost -2. Just like a training on board whenever you evolve into it. The top end also sees some unfamiliar but also really welcome additions and things like the Grand Galemon. He provides some really nice suspension synergy with the deck, where you can suspend something, but if you suspend one of your Digimon, he can become immune to your opponent's effects for a turn. And so you can either use this to set up a Cherubi Ace as a defensive play, or maybe even setting up a Hydramon that can't be easily destroyed by your opponent's effects, so anytime they rest, they would just lose their turn. Really reminiscent of the old Tax Wolf there. And then on the very top end, you've got cards like Bloomlord for power, as well as Leopardmon X Antibody for a little bit of removal, and to go wider. And then the tippy top of the deck run, cards like Quartzmon and Paladin Mode as a way to answer either board-based problems or trash-based problems. I definitely looked at my script, and this deck has so many parallels with Lord Knightmon X Antibody that I actually wrote down Lord Knight here. And so if you're a green player and have been longing for a deck that isn't Tyrant, then definitely give Bloomlord a try. It's proven itself formidable in this set for sure. Each week, I allow my champion level and higher YouTube members to vote on decks they want to see featured in these Meta Report videos. And this week, they squeaked by with a win for one of my favorite decks, Gallantmon. If you'd like to vote on decks that you want to see covered in these kinds of videos, as well as some other cool perks and bonuses like early access to my content and access to all of my stream VODs, consider becoming a YouTube channel member as well. I do want to give a truly sincere thank you to all the folks who do help support the channel, and with that, let's take a look at Gallantmon. So a way more blinged out version of this list won one of the second stage qualifiers here in Japan, but this is the everyman's version of the Gallantmon list, and honestly, Gallantmon is a deck that I feel like I could wax poetic about after using it solely or almost exclusively for this past month, but even this list defies a lot of my expectations. Instead of the more common build that focuses on the EX4 and EX3 mill cards and the Rush Guillemon and the Scramble cards as a way to generate offense really quickly, this list defies all of that and instead uses a Calumon focused build. In fact, we see the inclusion of up to 6 Calumon in this deck, 4 of the BT19 new one and the 2 copies of the older version. And they both have their uses. The BT19 version, of course, acting like a training delay effect to -2 memory whenever you evolve, and also has a really nice security effect that lets you play a 2000 DP or lower Digimon from your hand whenever it's checked in security. The cool thing is that on deletion, it actually recovers itself into security so that when it's later checked, if you have 2 in hand, you kind of keep yourself alive as long as you've got these little fellas lined up. So you probably noticed that with the inclusion of all of these Calumon, there's actually no scrambles in the deck, and that's because you really can't use them. Because Calumon can't attack or block, it's in your opponent's best interest to just target down all of your, Dukemon themed Digimon, or excuse me, Gallantmon themed Digimon, and just leave the Calumon on board. And if they're left on board, they're kind of just bricks because they can't attack or block, and with nothing left to interact with, you also wouldn't be able to use your Scramble cards to play Digimon from trash. Keep in mind the deck does have a means of getting rid of some of the Calumon cards using the EX3 Growlmon's Inheritance effect, where you can basically sacrifice one of them to the trash and then you get Security Attack +1 for the attack. Like I mentioned before, this list includes 0 copies of the Rush Guillemon, but instead it actually runs 1 more copy of the BT13 Gallantmon, who also has Rush. So the idea here is at the end of the turn, you can use a Guillemon on board and your BT17 Takuto Tamer to warp into a Gallantmon, and because you're warping into a Gallantmon who has Rush, he can still attack. And one of the byproducts of this is that at the level 3s, it actually frees up some of the space to use some of the BT17 Guillemon, who can act as a way to either destroy some floodgates on the board, or as a way to just gain memory whenever you play a Tamer or a Calumon. And so if you're looking for something outside of the basic versions of the Gallantmon deck, then definitely give this list a try. Even I'm intrigued, and if Gallantmon X wasn't coming out at the end of the week, I might be on this list as well. And with that, we're going to close the book on week 8 of the BT19 Xros Evolution set, and almost the entire set as a whole. I think we've got 1 more week of results, and then we'll start taking a look at some of the events from the EX8 set, of which I'm very excited about. I did the card review stream recently, and I am really excited for some of the decks like Gallantmon. I'm sure you probably already know, but also Pyramidimon. You guys in the comments really got me hyped for that deck, and it's so easy to see how crazy it can become. The edited down version of those videos will be coming to the channel soon, so make sure you're subscribed once again to see exactly when they go live. And yeah, with that said, I think I'm going to go lay down and try to rip my nose off, and yeah, I don't know, like my allergies are whooping my ass. I might actually have to go to the doctor. Anyways, folks, I'm gonna get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. say.